Marcus Chen had always believed that rock bottom had a basement. He discovered this truth while lying face down on the oil-stained concrete floor of his workshop, surrounded by the scattered remains of his life's work. The metallic taste of blood filled his mouth, where his lip had split against the unforgiving surface. Above him, the fluorescent lights buzzed with the same annoying persistence that had driven him to throw his wrench at the wall 20 minutes ago. The workshop that had once been his sanctuary now felt like a tomb. Half-finished projects cluttered every surface, their chrome and steel surfaces dulled by a layer of neglect. The air recycling system wheezed overhead, struggling to process the stale atmosphere that had become as lifeless as Marcus felt. Through the single grimy window, the sprawling metropolis of New Geneva stretched endlessly, its towering spires and flying vehicle lanes a constant reminder of the world that had moved on without him. 6 months ago, Marcus had been the lead engineer for Titan Industries, designing the neural interface systems that allowed humans to pilot the massive defense mechs protecting Earth's colonies. His innovations had saved countless lives during the Void War, earning him recognition across the solar system. The neural sync protocol he developed had become the standard for human-machine integration, a breakthrough that should have secured his legacy. Instead, it had destroyed everything he held dear. The memory hit him like a physical blow. Sarah's face, twisted in pain as the experimental neural link overloaded during the prototype test. The way her brilliant mind, capable of processing complex quantum equations in seconds, had simply stopped. The doctors said the damage was irreversible. The woman he loved, his research partner and fiancée, now spent her days in a medical facility, staring at walls with empty eyes that no longer recognized him. Marcus rolled onto his back, wincing as his bruised ribs protested. The ceiling above was a map of water stains and peeling paint, each mark telling a story of decay. He had tried to continue his work after the accident, driven by guilt and desperate hope that he could somehow fix what he had broken. But Titan Industries had terminated his contract, citing safety concerns and public relations nightmares. The media had painted him as a reckless scientist who prioritized innovation over human life. They weren't wrong. The insurance money had run out 3 months ago. His savings followed soon after, consumed by Sarah's medical bills and the cost of maintaining this workshop that now served no purpose except to house his failures. The eviction notice lay crumpled in the corner where he had thrown it this morning. 3 days. He had 3 days before even this pathetic refuge would be stripped away. Marcus closed his eyes, listening to the distant hum of the city's transportation grid. Perhaps it would be easier to simply let go, to stop fighting a battle he had already lost. The workshop's emergency airlock system would make it quick and painless. No more guilt, no more failure, no more watching the woman he loved waste away because of his arrogance. A sound interrupted his spiral into despair. A soft scraping noise like claws against metal, coming from the direction of the workshop's rear access panel. Marcus ignored it initially, assuming it was another rat seeking shelter in the building's lower levels. But the sound persisted, accompanied by something that might have been whimpering? Curiosity proved stronger than his death wish. Marcus hauled himself to his feet, his joints protesting after hours on the cold floor. The rear access panel had been installed during the building's construction to allow maintenance crews entry to the waste disposal systems. It hadn't been used in years, secured with a simple magnetic lock that had probably failed long ago. The scraping intensified as he approached, definitely coming from the narrow maintenance tunnel beyond the panel. Marcus hesitated, then triggered the release mechanism. The panel slid aside with a protesting groan, revealing a dark passage that disappeared into the building's mechanical systems. 2 glowing eyes stared back at him from the shadows. Marcus stumbled backward, his heart hammering against his ribs. The eyes weren't human. They were too large, too bright, and they reflected the workshop's harsh lighting with an almost crystalline quality. For a moment, neither creature nor human moved. Then something small and dark tumbled from the tunnel onto the workshop floor. It was about the size of a house cat, but there the resemblance ended. The creature possessed a serpentine neck that curved gracefully upward, supporting a head that was distinctly reptilian, yet somehow expressive. Its body was covered in scales that shifted from deep purple to midnight black, depending on how the light struck them. 4 legs ended in delicate claws, while a tail nearly as long as its body swept back and forth in obvious distress. Most remarkably, 2 gossamer wings sprouted from its shoulders, too small for flight but beautiful in their intricate structure. The membrane between the wing bones was translucent, revealing a complex network of veins that pulsed with a faint bioluminescent glow. Marcus stared in disbelief. Dragons were supposed to be myth, relegated to humanity's ancient stories and modern fantasy entertainment. Yet here one lay before him, real and undeniably alive. The creature was clearly young, possibly a hatchling based on its size and the soft, almost downy quality of some of its scales. It was also obviously injured. Dark fluid seeped from a gash along the dragon's left flank, staining the workshop floor. Its breathing came in short, labored gasps, and one wing hung at an awkward angle. The creature's eyes, which had initially shown wariness, now reflected something Marcus recognized with painful familiarity: despair. Despite everything he had endured, Marcus felt a spark of something he thought had died with his career. Professional curiosity mixed with genuine concern as he knelt beside the injured creature. The dragon didn't flee, though its muscles tensed as if preparing for an attack. "Hey there," Marcus whispered, keeping his voice low and gentle. "You're hurt pretty badly, aren't you?" The dragon's head tilted slightly, those remarkable eyes focusing on Marcus with unmistakable intelligence. It tried to lift itself, but collapsed with a sound that was part growl, part whimper. The injury was worse than Marcus had initially thought. Without treatment, the creature would likely die within hours. Marcus found himself faced with a choice that seemed to echo through the empty workshop. He could ignore the dragon, return to his plans for ending his own misery, and let nature take its course. Or he could try to help a creature that, like him, seemed abandoned by the universe. The decision came easier than he expected. Moving carefully to avoid startling the dragon, Marcus retrieved his emergency medical kit from a storage cabinet. The supplies were intended for human injuries, but the basics should translate to alien physiology. As he approached with antiseptic and bandages, the dragon watched him with those penetrating eyes as if weighing his intentions. "I know you don't have any reason to trust me," Marcus said, settling cross-legged beside the creature. "But I've got experience patching up damaged things, though I'll admit, my track record lately has been pretty terrible." The dragon didn't resist as Marcus began cleaning the wound, though it flinched at the initial contact. The injury appeared to be from some kind of energy weapon, the edges cauterized and infected. As Marcus worked, he found himself talking, filling the silence with observations and gentle reassurances. "You're definitely not from Earth," he murmured, noting the unusual cellular structure visible in the damaged tissue. "This bone density suggests you evolved in lower gravity, probably one of the outer colonies. But dragons? I thought humanity had cataloged every sapient species in known space." The dragon's response surprised him. It opened its mouth and produced a series of soft sounds, almost musical in their complexity. Not random noise, but clearly structured communication. The creature was trying to talk to him. Marcus paused in his treatment, studying the dragon's face. Intelligence sparkled in those crystalline eyes, an awareness that went far beyond animal instinct. This wasn't just some exotic pet or escaped research subject. This was a person, trapped in a body that couldn't speak in human languages. I wish I could understand you, Marcus said softly, securing a bandage around the dragon's torso. But maybe understanding isn't just about words. As he worked, Marcus noticed something remarkable happening. The dragon's natural healing seemed accelerated by his treatment, the wound edges already showing signs of improved circulation. More intriguingly, the creature's bioluminescent patterns grew brighter wherever Marcus touched, as if responding to human contact. By the time he finished bandaging the dragon's injuries, the workshop felt different. Less like a monument to failure, and more like a place where something important was beginning. The dragon had curled into a more comfortable position, its breathing steadier and its eyes alert. Marcus realized he faced a new problem. The dragon needed food, water, and a safe place to recover. His own resources were nearly exhausted, but turning the creature out in its current condition would be a death sentence. The city's authorities would either destroy it as an illegal alien species or hand it over to corporate researchers who would see only a valuable specimen. Neither option was acceptable. "Looks like we're both stuck here for a while," Marcus said, gently stroking the dragon's neck scales. The creature's response was a soft, rumbling sound that might have been a purr. "I guess the question is whether two broken outcasts can figure out how to help each other." Outside, the city hummed with its eternal rhythm of commerce and ambition. But inside the workshop, something new was taking root. Marcus felt a purpose stirring that had nothing to do with neural interfaces or corporate contracts. For the first time in months, he had something to live for beyond his own guilt and grief. The dragon watched him with those remarkable eyes, and Marcus could have sworn he saw hope reflected in their crystalline depths. Whatever had brought this creature to his workshop, whatever forces had led to this moment of connection between two damaged souls, Marcus was determined to see where it led. He had spent months believing he had nothing left to offer the universe. Now, looking at the dragon's trusting gaze, he realized the universe might still have use for a broken engineer with nothing left to lose except his capacity for caring. The real work was just beginning. 3 days passed in a blur of discovery and desperate improvisation. Marcus had named the dragon Spark, inspired by the way its bioluminescent patterns flickered when it was excited or curious. The name seemed to please the creature, who would chirp musically whenever Marcus used it. Spark's recovery progressed with startling speed. What should have taken weeks of healing compressed into days, as if the dragon's alien physiology operated on an accelerated timeline. More remarkably, Spark seemed to understand human technology with an intuitive grasp that bordered on supernatural. Marcus first noticed this when Spark began interacting with his abandoned projects. The dragon would approach a half-finished circuit board and carefully manipulate components with its delicate claws, always improving the design. A power coupling that had frustrated Marcus for weeks suddenly made perfect sense when Spark repositioned a single capacitor. The creature wasn't just randomly moving parts. It understood the underlying principles better than Marcus did. The eviction deadline arrived with characteristic bureaucratic punctuality. Marcus stood in the workshop doorway, facing a grim-faced bailiff and his 2 enforcement officers. Behind them lurked Mr. Hendricks, the building's owner, his expensive suit incongruous against the industrial backdrop. "Time's up, Chen," Hendricks said, not bothering to hide his satisfaction. "I've got corporate buyers interested in this space. Real money, not whatever you've been pretending to pay." The bailiff, a tired-looking woman with kind eyes, seemed less enthusiastic about the proceedings. "Mr. Chen, I'm required to inform you that any property remaining on the premises after noon today will be considered abandoned and subject to disposal." Marcus glanced back at Spark, who had hidden behind a stack of equipment but was clearly listening. The dragon's scales had shifted to a muted gray, a color pattern Marcus had learned indicated anxiety or fear. I need more time, Marcus said, though he knew it was pointless. Just a few more days to arrange transport for my equipment. Hendricks snorted. Your junk isn't worth the cost of hauling it away. Face reality, Chen. You're finished. Has been. Yesterday's news. The casual cruelty in the man's voice triggered something in Marcus that had been dormant since the accident. For months, he had accepted everyone's judgment that he was a failure, a cautionary tale about scientific hubris. But standing here, protecting Spark from discovery, he remembered what it felt like to fight for something important. Actually, Marcus said, his voice gaining strength, I think you'll find my lease agreement includes a clause about research exemptions. Subsection 47 of the Commercial Tenancy Act provides for extended occupancy during active patent applications. It was a bluff, but delivered with enough confidence to make Hendricks frown. The bailiff consulted her tablet, scrolling through legal documents with practiced efficiency. Mr. Chen is correct, she said after a moment. There is an outstanding exemption filed with the city. Patent application number, she squinted at the screen. 7794 Delta. Filed yesterday, actually. Marcus managed to keep his expression neutral despite his shock. He had filed no such application. Behind him, he heard a soft musical trill from Spark's hiding place, so quiet only he could detect it. Hendricks's face flushed red. That's impossible. He doesn't have any viable patents. The man's a washout. Nevertheless, the bailiff said firmly, the exemption is valid for 30 days pending review. Mr. Chen, you're entitled to continue occupancy during that period. The enforcement team departed with visible reluctance, Hendricks muttering threats about appeals and legal challenges. Marcus waited until their footsteps faded before turning to confront his unlikely savior. Spark emerged from hiding, scales shifting to a pleased golden hue. The dragon approached Marcus's computer terminal and began manipulating the holographic interface with surprising dexterity. Lines of code scrolled past, too fast for Marcus to follow, but he caught glimpses of patent documentation, legal filings, and what appeared to be a completely functional design for an improved neural interface system. You did this, Marcus said, not quite believing it. You hacked the city's legal database and filed a patent application, but how did you know about human legal systems? And this design... He studied the scrolling specifications. This is revolutionary. The neural pathway mapping alone would eliminate the overload problems that caused Sarah's accident. Spark's response was a complex series of musical sounds that Marcus was beginning to interpret as explanations, though the specific meaning remained elusive. The dragon moved to another terminal and activated a holographic display showing star charts and navigation data. Marcus recognized the stellar configurations immediately. They represented the Kepler colonies, humanity's most distant settlements in the outer rim. But the data included details that weren't in any public database, information about planetary compositions and resource distributions that would be priceless to corporations and governments alike. You're not just from the outer colonies, Marcus breathed. You're from somewhere beyond them. Somewhere humans haven't discovered yet. Spark nodded, a gesture so human it was startling. The dragon then manipulated the display to show what appeared to be a battle scene. Ships that Marcus didn't recognize engaged human vessels in devastating combat. Explosions bloomed across the holographic space, and Marcus watched human colonies burn under alien assault. This is why you're here, he said, understanding flooding through him. You're a refugee. Your people are at war with something, and it's spreading toward human space. The implications hit him like a physical blow. Humanity had enjoyed relative peace since the end of the Void War 5 years ago. The galaxy seemed stable, with established trade routes and diplomatic protocols managing relations between known species. If Spark's people were fleeing something powerful enough to drive them from their homes, Earth needed to prepare for threats beyond current comprehension. But who would believe a disgraced engineer and a dragon that couldn't speak human languages? Spark seemed to sense his thoughts. The dragon approached Marcus and gently touched his hand with one clawed digit. Where they made contact, Marcus felt a strange, tingling sensation, as if electricity was flowing between them. The workshop around him seemed to fade, replaced by images that formed directly in his mind. He saw Spark's world, crystal cities that floated among mountain peaks, powered by the same bioluminescent energy that flowed through dragon physiology. He witnessed the arrival of the enemy, geometric ships that consumed matter itself, turning thriving planets into empty husks. He experienced Spark's desperate flight, the young dragon stealing aboard a human transport ship and hiding in its cargo holds until reaching Earth. The connection lasted only seconds, but it left Marcus reeling with new understanding. Spark wasn't just intelligent. Their species possessed a form of technological symbiosis that made human-machine interfaces look primitive. Dragons didn't build separate tools. They became living components of their technology, their consciousness merging seamlessly with artificial systems. "The neural overload problem," Marcus whispered. "You know how to solve it, because your people never separated organic minds from mechanical systems." They evolved together. Spark chirped agreement, then returned to the computer terminal. Together, they began working on the patent application Spark had created, refining the design and adding theoretical frameworks that bridged the gap between human and dragon approaches to consciousness, technology integration. As they worked, Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced since before Sarah's accident: the pure joy of discovery. Each problem they solved revealed new possibilities, new ways to enhance human potential without the risks that had destroyed his previous research. Spark's alien perspective combined with Marcus's engineering expertise created innovations neither could have achieved alone. Hours passed unnoticed. The workshop transformed from a monument to failure into a laboratory buzzing with possibility. Charts and diagrams covered every available surface, while holographic displays showed complex molecular structures and neural pathway mappings. "We need to test this," Marcus said eventually, reviewing their latest iteration of the neural interface design. "But that requires resources I don't have. Equipment, volunteers, approval from research boards." Spark made a sound that Marcus had learned indicated disagreement. The dragon moved to a storage cabinet that Marcus hadn't opened in months, one containing his most sophisticated diagnostic equipment. With careful manipulations of the controls, Spark activated a neural scanner that Marcus had assumed was broken beyond repair. The machine hummed to life, its displays showing readouts that were far more detailed than Marcus remembered. Somehow, Spark had not only repaired the scanner but upgraded it with modifications that shouldn't have been possible with available components. "You want us to test it on ourselves," Marcus realized. "But the risks..." Spark fixed him with those penetrating eyes and made a soft, trilling sound that conveyed unmistakable determination. The dragon wasn't asking for safety or guarantees. It was asking for trust. Marcus thought about Sarah lying in that medical facility with her brilliant mind trapped behind damaged neural pathways. He considered the approaching threat that only he and Spark knew about, and humanity's complete lack of preparation. He weighed the potential for another catastrophic failure against the possibility of breakthrough discoveries that could save both species. The choice, when it came down to it, was simple. He had already lost everything that mattered to him. But Spark represented hope for redemption, for transformation, for the chance to become something greater than the sum of their individual limitations. "All right," Marcus said, beginning to prepare the neural interface apparatus. "Let's see what happens when human stubbornness meets dragon innovation." As he worked, Marcus realized that his perspective had fundamentally shifted. 3 days ago, he had been a broken man waiting for death. Now he was a partner in the most important research project in human history, guided by an alien intelligence that saw potential where others saw only failure. The real test was about to begin. The modified neural interface sat between them like a bridge spanning two worlds. Marcus had spent hours calibrating the system, incorporating Spark's improvements with growing amazement at their elegance. Where his original design had forced brutal connections between organic neural networks and digital systems, Spark's modifications created gentle harmonies that respected both forms of consciousness. "The theory is sound," Marcus murmured, reviewing the final calculations. "Neural pathways should integrate smoothly without the cascade failures that damaged Sarah. But theory and practice?" He didn't need to finish. They both understood the risks. If the interface failed catastrophically, Marcus could suffer the same fate as his fiancée. But if it succeeded, they would create something unprecedented, a true partnership between human determination and alien wisdom. Spark moved closer, scales shifting through patterns that Marcus now recognized as complex emotional states. Confidence mixed with concern, determination tempered by affection. The dragon had grown attached to him, just as he had become devoted to his unlikely companion. "Together?" Marcus asked, holding up the neural crown that would establish the connection. Spark's response was a musical trill that needed no translation. "Together." Marcus placed the neural crown on his head, feeling the familiar weight of the interface contacts against his skull. But this version was different, incorporating organic components that Spark had somehow synthesized from materials in the workshop. The contacts felt warm, almost alive, as they established preliminary connections with his nervous system. Spark's portion of the interface was even more remarkable. Instead of a crude mechanical crown, the dragon would interface through a crystalline formation that resonated with its natural bioluminescence. The crystal had grown in a matter of hours, shaped by Spark's own bioelectric fields, into perfect compatibility with dragon physiology. "Initializing connection," Marcus said, his finger hovering over the activation control. "Neural pathways mapping. Consciousness barriers. Disengaging." The world exploded into sensation. Marcus felt his awareness expand beyond the boundaries of his skull, touching something vast and ancient and impossibly complex. Spark's consciousness was like nothing human science had ever encountered. Layered realities that existed simultaneously, emotional spectrums that spanned dimensions Marcus couldn't name, memories that stretched back through generations of genetic inheritance. But instead of the violent collision he had feared, their minds found harmony. Human linear thinking complemented dragon intuitive leaps. Marcus's systematic approach to problems merged seamlessly with Spark's holistic understanding of technological systems. They remained separate individuals while becoming something greater than either could achieve alone. Through Spark's enhanced perceptions, Marcus experienced the workshop as he never had before. Every electronic device hummed with its own unique signature, while the building's structural systems revealed hidden stresses and optimal modification points. The city beyond pulsed with data streams and energy flows that painted three-dimensional maps of pure information. More importantly, he felt Spark's perspective on their partnership. The dragon saw him not as a failed scientist, but as a bridge between worlds, a human whose willingness to trust and adapt made him uniquely capable of understanding alien approaches to consciousness and technology. "Show me," Marcus projected, not speaking but communicating directly through their shared connection. Images flooded his awareness. Spark's homeworld in its glory days, when crystal cities floated in perfect harmony with their inhabitants' bioelectric fields. Dragon society based not on hierarchy but on symphonic cooperation, where individuals maintained their uniqueness while contributing to collective achievements that spanned centuries. Then came the darkness. Ships that weren't ships, intelligence that consumed, rather than created. A force that turned matter itself into extensions of its hunger. The Devourers, as Sparks people called them, had emerged from the galactic core like antibodies responding to an infection. But instead of protecting the galaxy, they sought to sterilize it of all organized matter and energy. "They're coming here," Marcus said aloud, his voice hoarse with the emotional weight of Sparks' memories. "To human space. How long do we have?" Sparks' response came as a complex data stream that Marcus's enhanced consciousness interpreted automatically. 3 years, possibly 4, before the first Devourer scouts reached the outer colonies. Humanity's current technology would be useless against them, but the neural interface breakthrough they had just achieved offered possibilities that could level the playing field. "We need to warn them," Marcus said. "Earth's government, the colonial defense forces, everyone." But even as he spoke, Marcus realized the futility of that approach. Who would believe a disgraced engineer and an alien dragon about threats from beyond known space? He would be dismissed as delusional, while Spark would become a research specimen locked away in corporate laboratories. Spark's consciousness touched his, offering a different perspective. Warning wasn't enough. They needed to prepare humanity by advancing human technology to levels capable of resisting the Devourers. The neural interface was just the beginning. With proper development, it could allow humans to achieve the same technological symbiosis that had made dragon civilization so remarkable. A foundation, Marcus realized. We establish a research foundation, use the patent royalties to fund development of human-dragon hybrid technologies, train volunteers who can form the same partnerships we have. Through their connection, Marcus felt Sparks' approval mixed with something deeper, hope. For the first time since fleeing their homeworld, the dragon believed survival might be possible. They spent hours exploring the implications of their breakthrough, their combined consciousness mapping potential research directions and development timelines. The neural interface was scalable, capable of accommodating different human neural patterns and even other species' consciousness structures. More importantly, it was teachable. Other humans could learn to form similar partnerships with dragons, creating a cadre of hybrid-enhanced defenders. But first, they needed proof of concept that would convince investors and researchers. Marcus knew exactly where to start. "Sarah," he whispered, the name carrying weight through their shared connection. "If the interface can heal damaged neural pathways..." Sparks' response was immediate understanding. The dragon had experienced Marcus's grief and guilt over Sarah's condition and shared his desperate hope for redemption. Through dragon medical knowledge, filtered through their partnership, came confirmation that neural regeneration was possible with their hybrid approach. "We go to her facility tonight," Marcus decided. "Portable interface, minimal risk exposure. If we can heal her..." The implications were staggering. Sarah's reputation in the scientific community was impeccable. Her endorsement of their work would open doors that Marcus could never approach alone. More importantly, returning the woman he loved to full health would heal wounds in his soul that he had thought permanent. As evening approached, they prepared for what would either be their greatest triumph or final failure. Marcus packed the portable interface components while Spark synthesized additional biocrystals for the healing process. Their shared consciousness hummed with nervous energy and desperate hope. The medical facility's security was minimal, designed to keep patients in rather than intruders out. Marcus's former clearance codes, somehow still active in bureaucratic oversight, granted them access to the neural trauma wing where Sarah spent her days in empty contemplation. She looked smaller than Marcus remembered, diminished by months of neural isolation. But her body remained healthy, and brain scans showed that the damaged pathways could potentially be bypassed with careful interface reconstruction. "Sarah," Marcus whispered, settling beside her bed. "I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm going to try to fix what I broke." Spark moved to the opposite side of the bed, scales shifting to soothing blue patterns. The dragon's presence seemed to calm Sarah, her vital signs stabilizing even in her unconscious state. The portable interface activated with minimal disturbance to the facility's monitoring systems. Marcus felt his consciousness expand again, touching Spark's awareness while reaching toward Sarah's damaged neural networks. What he found broke his heart. A brilliant mind trapped behind walls of scar tissue and disrupted pathways. Still thinking, but unable to connect thoughts into coherent consciousness. But Spark's bioelectric healing abilities, channeled through their partnership, offered hope. Carefully, gently, they began rebuilding the damaged connections, using the dragon's regenerative knowledge to guide human neural repair mechanisms. Hours passed in delicate work, Marcus and Spark operating as perfect partners in the most important surgery of their lives. Gradually, neural pathway activity increased. Synaptic responses strengthened. The walls that had isolated Sarah's consciousness began to crumble. Her eyes opened, just as dawn light filtered through the facility windows. "Marcus?" Sarah's voice was weak but unmistakably aware. "What? Where?" "You're safe," Marcus said, tears streaming down his face. "You're going to be fine. We're going to change everything." As Sarah's gaze focused on Spark, her scientific mind immediately grasped the implications of what she was seeing. A living dragon, obviously intelligent, clearly partnered with Marcus in ways that transcended simple cooperation. "Extraordinary," she breathed, her eyes growing bright with the curiosity that had made her such a brilliant researcher. "Marcus, do you realize what this means? What you've accomplished?" Through their neural link, Marcus shared everything with Spark. The joy of Sarah's recovery, the validation of their work, the overwhelming sense that they had not only healed her body, but redeemed his failures. The dragon's consciousness sparkled with shared happiness, its scales shifting to brilliant gold patterns that seemed to celebrate their triumph. But beneath the celebration, both partners understood that this was only the beginning. Humanity's real test lay ahead, in the form of approaching devourers that could consume entire worlds. They had proven that human-dragon partnerships were possible, but developing them on a scale capable of mounting a defense would require resources, support, and time they might not have. "We need to talk," Marcus said, helping Sarah sit up. "All of us. There are things you need to know about what's coming." As he began explaining about the Devourers and their plans for the Chen Spark Foundation, Marcus realized that his darkest moment on the workshop floor had become the foundation for humanity's brightest hope. A homeless dragon hatchling had transformed not just his life, but potentially the fate of two species. The broken engineer and his alien partner were broken no longer. Together, they would build something that could stand against the darkness approaching from the galactic core. They would teach humanity to fly alongside dragons, merging organic determination with synthetic possibility, creating defenders capable of protecting everything both species held dear. The workshop where Marcus had once planned to end his life would become humanity's first step toward transcendence. And somewhere in the space between human ambition and dragon wisdom, the future was just beginning to unfold.